I usually don't ask this early, but if you could like the video and subscribe, it would mean a lot. We're so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and your support can really help get my content out there. Thanks. My name is Victor Muller, and I'm a 38-year-old financial analyst living in Zurich, Switzerland. I had always thought I had the perfect life. I grew up in a small town, but worked my way up to become successful. I married Elena Rossi, an Italian artist from Milan, when I was 23, and we had been together for 15 years. She was the love of my life, the woman I adored, and the one I thought I would grow old with. Our life seemed idyllic on the outside. We lived in a spacious apartment overlooking Lake Zurich. We had two wonderful children, Luca, who was 12, and Sophia, who was 8. Elena's art career had been thriving for the past few years, and she often traveled to different European cities for her exhibitions. While I supported her ambitions, it meant that I often stayed back, balancing my career and caring for the kids. But that was the life we had chosen. We were partners. We had trust. Or at least, that's what I believed. As the years went by, things started to change. Slowly. It was so subtle that I didn't even realize it at first. Elena began taking more and more trips to different cities. Paris, Berlin, Vienna, and Madrid, supposedly for her work. She had always been passionate about art, but now it seemed to consume her entire life. She became distant and preoccupied. Our conversations dwindled to mundane topics like schedules and the children. At first, I thought this was a normal phase. After all, we'd been married for 15 years. Things change, people grow. I knew she had a busy career, and I didn't want to stand in her way. But soon enough, the late-night texts, secretive phone calls, and the emotional disconnect between us made me suspicious. The moment that finally pushed me over the edge was during a family dinner. It was supposed to be a special night. Our anniversary. I had booked a table at one of the finest restaurants in Zurich. The plan was to relive our early days when we were young and crazy in love, to rekindle that spark. But Elena didn't seem particularly interested. As we sat at the table, her phone buzzed again. I tried not to look, but when she glanced at it, I saw her expression shift. A small, secretive smile curled at the corner of her lips, one I hadn't seen in years. My heart sank. She excused herself to the bathroom, taking her phone with her. My mind raced. Was she cheating? Was there someone else? I had always trusted her, but that smile, that expression, it was something more than just a friendly text. My hands trembled as I sipped my wine, trying to calm the storm brewing inside me. But deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. When she returned, I tried to make conversation, but her mind was elsewhere. I couldn't take it anymore. That night, as we lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. I knew I had to find out the truth. The next morning, after Elena left for her studio, I couldn't help myself. I opened her laptop, which she always kept in our living room. She had a habit of leaving it unlocked, and I knew her passwords. My hands shook as I logged into her email, and that's when I found them. Dozens of messages exchanged with a man named Andreas Wagner. At first, it seemed innocent, like work-related emails. But the further I scrolled, the more intimate the messages became. There were months of communication, flirtatious, emotional, and explicit. My worst fear had been confirmed. Elena had been seeing Andreas for nearly a year. He was a 40-year-old architect from Vienna, a man she had met at one of her art shows. The emails were filled with declarations of love, promises to meet in secret, and painful confessions about how much she enjoyed spending time with him more than with me. I felt as if the ground had been ripped from under me. My hands went cold, my stomach churned, and my heart raced in disbelief. This couldn't be real. Elena, the woman I loved, the mother of my children, was cheating on me. I didn't know what to do. I slammed the laptop shut and collapsed on the couch, my mind spiraling. I didn't confront her immediately. I needed time to process it. But in the days that followed, my anger grew. The lies, the betrayal, it was all too much. I couldn't let it go. I needed to expose her, but I needed to do it in a way that would shake her and everyone involved to their core. Elena had another art show coming up, this time in Berlin. She was leaving for 3 days, and of course Andreas was going to be there. I knew this was my opportunity. If I confronted her at home, she might deny it, or worse, play the victim. No, I needed to expose her in front of everyone, in front of the people who admired her, and in front of her lover. I wanted them to feel the pain I was enduring. I spent the next few days planning meticulously. I found out the location of the art gallery and booked a flight to Berlin. My plan was simple: show up unannounced and confront them in the middle of the event. I wanted to catch them off guard with no way to escape. On the morning of the show, Elena kissed me goodbye as if everything was normal. I felt sick to my stomach knowing what she was doing behind my back. I pretended to be the doting husband, wishing her good luck, and then I left for the airport as soon as she was out of sight. When I arrived in Berlin, I checked into a hotel near the gallery and spent the day mentally preparing myself for what I was about to do. This wasn't going to be easy. Despite everything, I still loved her. Part of me wished I could just walk away, but I knew I couldn't live with myself if I didn't expose the truth. The gallery was buzzing with energy when I arrived that evening. It was a high-end affair, with European art elites, wealthy collectors, and famous artists mingling about. I spotted Elena almost immediately. She was standing near one of her paintings, talking to a small group of people, including Andreas. I felt a surge of anger as I watched them. They looked comfortable, almost too comfortable. I waited for the right moment. I walked around the gallery, pretending to admire the art, all the while keeping an eye on them. My heart was racing, but I stayed calm. Finally, I saw my chance. Elena and Andreas had separated from the group and were talking in a quieter corner. Now was the time. I grabbed the microphone that was set up for the evening's speeches. The room quieted down as people turned to face me. Elena looked confused at first, but as I began to speak, her expression changed to one of horror. "Good evening, everyone," I began, my voice steady but laced with emotion. "I know many of you are here to appreciate the art tonight, but I think there's another story that deserves to be told. A story of betrayal." The room fell silent. All eyes were on me now. "This is my wife, Elena," I said, pointing to her. "And that man over there," I gestured to Andreas, "is the man she's been cheating on me with for the past year. They've been having an affair behind my back, and I think it's only fair that everyone here knows the truth." The shock on their faces was palpable. Elena's face turned ghostly white, her mouth opening and closing as if she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Andreas stood frozen in place, his eyes wide with disbelief. The room erupted into murmurs and gasps, and I could see people taking out their phones, recording the moment. "I loved you, Elena," I continued, my voice breaking. "I gave you everything. I trusted you. And this is how you repay me? By sneaking around with another man?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me with her emotions. I needed everyone to see her for who she really was. The crowd began to turn against them. I could hear people whispering, some even clapping in support of me. One woman shouted, "Shame on you, Elena!" Others shook their heads in disgust. Even in a room filled with artists who prided themselves on being open-minded and liberal, there was no excuse for such blatant betrayal. But the most unexpected reaction came from Andreas himself. Andreas stepped forward, his face flushed with embarrassment. He looked at Elena and then at me. "Victor," he said, his voice trembling. "I'm sorry. I had no idea things would get this far. I can't do this anymore." With that, he turned and walked out of the gallery, leaving Elena standing there, humiliated and alone. She tried to run after him, but the crowd blocked her path. People were whispering, pointing, and shaking their heads in disapproval. She was trapped. There was no escaping the truth now. I stood there, watching as my wife, my once loving wife, crumbled before me. It was a bittersweet moment. I had exposed her, but the victory felt hollow. The woman I had spent 15 years of my life with was no longer the person I thought she was. In the weeks that followed, our marriage officially ended. The divorce was painful but necessary. Elena tried to apologize, to explain herself, but there was nothing she could say that would undo the damage. I couldn't forgive her, and I didn't want to. The children, of course, were the hardest part. Luca and Sophia didn't understand why their mother wasn't coming home. We tried to shield them from the truth as much as possible, but eventually they would know. As for me, I slowly began to rebuild my life. I found solace in the support of friends and family, and in time, I started to heal. It wasn't easy, but I knew I deserved better. I deserved honesty, loyalty, and love. Thank you for watching. And that was my story. If you've ever been through something similar, or if this story struck a chord with you, feel free to share your thoughts below. How would you have handled a situation like this? Would you have exposed your partner in public, or would you have taken a different route? Please leave a comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Thanks for watching.